Some economic news now. Restaurant franchisor Famous Brands reported a 7% fall in interim profit, weighed down by rolling power cuts. At the country's economic challenges, the owner of Steers and Wimpy has faced increased operating costs at a time of soaring inflation, when many industries are seeing a change in consumer spending habits away from discretionary items. So for more, SABC Markets presenter Nastasia Arendse spoke to Famous Brands CEO Darren Hele.
We've kept true to our strategy and focused on our franchise partners who effectively are the lifeblood of our business. And together with our strong brands have really come together and tried to just keep our focus and make sure that we deliver value to the customer. And in these times that's been quite challenging. Obviously keeping the doors open in load shedding has been a primary focus. We could have done a lot more in that sense, I suppose, because we have got restaurants that still don't trade. But overall, we have a good percentage of restaurants trading, and they are doing particularly well at that point in time. So I think collaboration with our franchise partners around the support has really been an important aspect of getting through.
Talk to me about that collaboration, because we know about the impact of load shedding, especially the impact it's having on various sectors. But how are you working with your franchise partners to share the load, for lack of a better description?
Yeah, look, it is a difficult description because, it is a load, and, franchisees are bearing a big brunt of it around the alternative power costs. But we've come up with quite a unique model whereby we provide them relief on the fees they pay to us on sales that are generated during load shedding periods. So we're using, the Eskom app, we're actually able to calculate that. It is slightly theoretical, but at least we're providing some relief for them while they're generating those sales. So it's quite a unique model. And again, I'm sure that they would probably want more, but no one else has come up with a model like that. And we think that it really it's just showing shared value in terms of the actual problem that we're all facing.
What kind of trends are you picking up when you look at consumer behavior when it comes to sit-down dining versus in-house consumption?
So definitely in the early part of the year and going through winter, so most of these results are reported for the winter period, load shedding was driving people back to malls, morning and during daylight hours particularly, and people were using sit-down restaurants as a time out, kind of way to potentially avoid load shedding, work from restaurant rather than work from home kind of setup. So we were attracting people, and we still see that trend. So particularly in suburbs and malls, you've got security, you've got the safety, and you've got the backup power. So that was certainly driving that. Less of a trend at night. So at night we certainly still see that there's not as much of an occasion as there was pre-COVID, as an example. So that's the part that is still disappointing across the industry from what we can see, and certainly in our own numbers.
When you look at aspects across the industry, especially those who are in the different parts of the value chain, they always bring up the issue of high input costs. And with that, you're seeing a consumer that's shopping around for value. With that picture in mind, how are you thinking of menu pricing?
Yeah, very challenging. Obviously we have to be cautious. We know that the consumer doesn't have an endless pot of money, so we're always very cautious about menu pricing. But you just can't, beat food inflation. At some point in time, you've got to pass it on. But you can look at value engineering, but very difficult in our category. King steer is a king steer. So to start taking ingredients out of it or downside, it's not possible, certainly in this stage. So you also try and renovate around other products or introduce other products that can offer more value. And work through those. But we've worked hard at keeping pricing down, but needless to say, we've had to pass pricing on. As you've seen, we've had to pass, roughly over time, over the period of inflation, probably around 10%, we're carrying as passed through. So, not easy for anybody to hold that kind of cost pressure back.
We were talking about consumer behavior and the kind of trends you're seeing here, but I wanted to focus in on your leading brands and signature brands here, especially on a like-for-like basis. It was quite interesting to see the kind of nuances that you're picking up at a provincial level. Talk to me about that.
Look, leading brands is obviously more exposed to the entire South Africa than signature brands. Although signature brands trades in those provinces, the depth of their trade is not there. So leading brands is probably a better indicator. And, we are trading well through all the geographies. The two that stand out are obviously KZN and Western Cape. Western Cape, a better story in terms of growth, but also subdued as a result of the taxi strike. August, we were trading well up until August. Seems to be struggling for two reasons. One, we think tourism has declined around the beach closures, but also secondly, it was our province where we had the lowest cover on alternative power solutions. Franchisees and consumers got lulled to a bit of false security for a while because they didn't have load shedding for a period of time past the flooding, and they were almost 1 or 2 stages below us, but they're now getting the same levels of load shedding. So we got caught out a bit ourselves on those provinces particularly. But Western Cape continues to perform nicely, as do a few others, such as Northern Cape, which we think is also driven around tourism and some of the economic recovery around mining.
When it comes to your Africa and Middle East expansion here, what approach are you taking on that front?
Slow and steady, so we still remain optimistic, despite lots of Africa pessimists that we talk to. But we're taking a very deep and narrow approach, so sort of narrow market, but penetrating deep into that market. So rather than a wide approach and trying to penetrate everywhere, so we're not looking to do massive amounts, and there's areas that we just know is not for us to go to. So, but we'll be cautious. We've been in Africa for a long time.